Hi, welcome to the first part of this week's show where John, Dave and myself are going to look back over our defeat to the All Blacks, and the second part look forward to our match against Australia and of course Leinster's game in the Pro 12 against Clonettley. So boys, 9-21 against the All Blacks. We had a savage amount of possession, 66% possession, 69% territory. They had 14-4 penalty count against them, and they had two men in the sin bin.
New sponsor. Did you saw the new sponsor? Head and Shoulders.
And basically, they still scored 3 tries to our none.
From my perspective, and we'll probably get into talk about all the dredging up all the dirt at some point very soon. But before we do that, I think it's kind of a shame that there was that dirt, because the All Blacks probably would have won, possibly by more, without the dirt. And I don't know that we would have, without their sin biddings and without their 14 penalties, I don't think we would have got anywhere near them.
I mean,
so
well, if
they'd have cut out a bit of that dirt, it would have. They probably would have.
It's a very good point, because they
didn't need it.
They're anti-rugby, for want of a better phrase. If we didn't have a referee as untroubled by competency as Paper, they could have found themselves in an awful lot of trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. I blame the officials, all 4 of them, including the TMO. I don't really blame the All Blacks. The All Blacks were fired up, for sure. Were they borderline? For sure. Did they stray over the border? Absolutely.
But they came over the border like Peter Robinson back in the 80s. Come on.
But a few weeks ago we spoke about teams playing the game against, like, whoever we're playing against, play it to the limit of what the referee deems acceptable. Sometimes we say, "Oh God, they're fringing offside. Oh, there was hands in the ruck. They slowed down everybody." That's what the referee is letting you away with. Yeah, so that's what you should play to.
Yeah,
if the referee is letting a fairly physical battle commence,
you're fairly physical back
instead of whinging and going down.
Well, they looked at how Paper
go down.
They looked at how Paper refereed the match against France, for example, and realised he allowed, shall we say, an excess of physicality.
Well, in that game, I think it was bring back the guillotine.
It was the same. It was the same in this game. I mean, people can say about it, but does anyone think it's any fluke that within 20 minutes the 2 best players from the first test were out to shoulders to the head?
Be quite honest with you, I did. Hold on, they weren't both out to shoulders of the head.
Stander was.
Oh, Stander.
And
Sexton's hammer.
I'm not talking about Sexton got a hammer. That happens. I mean, I'm not talking about that.
Sexton was the man of the match in the first test.
Well, I would have said Henshaw.
Or we don't have a team, and it's quite clearly dead. Going back to the rugby, instead of, I'm sick of all this whinging.
Yeah, we
quite
have had an overdose of whinging.
Like,
to be honest.
It's all about the 15 guys on the pitch playing rugby against each other, regardless of whether there's a bit of argy-bargy. So what? There's a few high tackles. There have been high tackles in throughout rugby.
Max Brito.
Well, anyway, just going back to the rugby. And you can see how important that Johnny Sexton is to the team, because you take him out of the equation after 20 minutes.
No, it makes a huge difference.
And we bring on Paddy Jackson, and it just goes into it. We had so much possession, yet we are a blunt instrument with him at
the problem with Paddy Jackson, and he's a good player. He's a very good player, and he proved it in South Africa. But the problem really is the control. Like, the guy is a running out half. He runs quite well. He takes some lovely lines. He can break himself. He has lots of good things to his game. He doesn't have what we needed. Like, we could have been still there and we wouldn't have got through that All Black defence, whether it was legal or illegal. They were fanned out. I mean, I was bang on the halfway line and they were fanned out across the pitch all day. Even that, which we'll probably talk about later, that Fekatoa thing, that was so unnecessary. There was 3-on-1 on Zebo when that happened.
No, he was just playing to tactics. Following his coach's instructions.
I don't accept that from him.
Neither do I.
But
then why did you do it? If there was 3-on-1 and he did it anyway, and that was the 3rd time, it wasn't. It was about the 5th or 6th time.
I'm getting dragged off the point back into the dirt again.
Well, no, you're getting dragged back into the meat of the game.
We beat ourselves. For example,
Jackson. To finish on Jackson, you saw 2 things. There was only one thing he could do with that defence, or 2 things, maybe 2 or 3 things. One would be kick to the corner, which he did once, quite badly. Or else chip over the top, which he did once, not quite okay.
Payne almost scored from it.
Which Payne, if he'd have held on to it, he would have scored. they're the kind of things now you can't kick every ball over the top. It's obvious.
He's a fine functional out half, but not much more.
Do you know what else he did? We kicked 4 times in the first half. Now, admittedly, Sexton was on for the first 20 minutes, but we didn't vary our game. We became absolutely predictable. Conor Murray is clearly was carrying some sort of a knock because his box kicking was going 15, 20 metres far too far down the pitch. In the second half, we panicked in defence. It was a ball chipped through by them. Trimble tidied it up. He kicked it straight back down the throat of a Kiwi who ran it 5 passes and they scored in the corner.
Yeah,
you know, like
they are the All Blacks. You know, they do that shit.
Yeah, okay. But you know what? You can watch Barnhall or Coolmine, you know, and they shouldn't get a ball in your own 22 and not make touch, John. Like, it's fundamentals of rugby, and if we beat ourselves, for example, if Jared Payne, like, and these small margins decide matches, you can forget all about the high tackles and all that. Small margins, like as Jamie Heasab said in a press conference, it's a tough game. Move on, get over it. Did you not say that, Dave? No?
I'm just thinking that it's all very well and good to discuss.
But did he not say?
It's like talking about the maiden voyage of the Titanic and not discussing the iceberg. I mean, that's what we're doing. I mean,
why?
We're talking
just
about,
get over it, Dave. Talk about the rugby instead of whinging.
Talk about Fekitoa's try then.
No, I'm going to talk about Ireland.
Because that's a material effect on the game.
Okay, but if Sean O'Brien had have held on to the ball, which was a beautiful move off the line out that Toner smuggled to him. Yeah. If Sean O'Brien had have been able to hold on to that ball, it was 7 points.
If Kieran Reid had stayed out of our back row and we'd been allowed to scrummage properly, that was 7 points. If the ref had given the penalty try like he should have done for that, because they had more back rowers in our back row than we did on that scrum, that should have been a penalty try. That was 7 points. I mean, all these incidents keep coming up. You talk about, like Rob Kearney, you were saying earlier, he missed a very obvious try when he should have passed. The guy was fucking concussed because he had a high tackle. I mean,
I think you're painting it a very.
The thing is, New Zealand didn't need to do this. That's my point.
They absolutely.
They are a good enough rugby team to play without the filth. But they came out. They felt maybe it was a machismo thing or something. After what happened in the first test, they wanted to establish their essential all-blackness over Ireland, and they did it. And they did it the way they always do it, which is by an over-excess of physicality.
Okay.
But the point remains.
Can we move on from that now?
We had nearly 70% of territory and 65 or 66% of possession, and yet we couldn't penetrate their line.
No.
And the only way we had to resort was like going through the tradesman's entrance, which is a chip and hope over the top.
But then on the other hand of that, Jason, our best ball carrier from the first test was off the pitch.
Well, our best ball carrier came onto the pitch because it was Sean O'Brien came on and made 19 carries.
And accidentally, nothing to do with the All Blacks, but accidentally, our out half was also off the pitch. These things happen, you know, as part of the.
Exactly.
These things are causative. So they happen and they cause ripples.
To be honest with you, the Sam Cane one is probably the only one. There's 2 things you could say.
Come on, Izzy Dag on CJ Stander. Come off. It's all right. Not been nice and been all postmodern and iconoclastic and not wanting to rock the boat because Ireland are seen as good corporate citizens within world rugby, and we are, and we don't want to cause a fuss. There's World Cup bid coming up and all that kind of stuff. But right, they went out and they were thugs like.
I don't accept that for a minute.
You fight fire with fire, but I totally agree with you that there was some very poor both refereeing and TMO decisions. Obviously the TMO one, which Sexton getting his arm under the ball, the guy made a very, very quick decision rather than looking at more angles. Like, you know,
I wouldn't have been shouting too much about that because
Sexton
went high on your man.
That's what should have happened then. The TMO should have said,
penalty try.
No, there was no try awarded because of blah, blah, blah. I'm giving the penalty try. That's what a competent official does.
Well, I'd be worried that he might have sent.
Well, he might
have saved his hamstring.
Well, I think it looked dodgy. Anyway, I mean, it was, but
that's what I mean. I mean, if a competent official we say he does look at that and says, "All right, I can't see a clear grounding, right? But there was a tackle over the line of the shoulders, and that's what caused the ball to be held up. I suggest that there should be a penalty try and perhaps a yellow card, right? But that's what a competent official does, right? He doesn't go. I can
that.
I would have preferred that the officials got as much of the stuff right as possible. Human error happens. It always happens to officials. I often defend officials. But in this case, it's just not
But
feasible.
like we spoke earlier, off camera, about the dropout that didn't go 10 meters, and Kieran Reid caught the ball with his back facing the opposition and carried the ball over. The ball didn't clear. The ball went 9 meters. Let's go 10 meters, and yet the referee allowed play to continue. So rather than our scrum back on the halfway line, it was actually they got the advantage and made 30 meters up the sideline. Now I can't remember whether something developed out of that, but they still had possession of the ball and put us under pressure. But going back to the actual we beating ourselves, we had 2 penalties under the posts when we were in the ascendancy. Now I can understand them wanting, like, we conceded 2 early tries and we wanted to get points on the board. I can understand taking the first kick, but the second one we were actually millering them in the scrum, and yet we took the 3 points, which I just thought was just, it wasn't enough reward.
I think you can, if you have an advantage in the scrum in particular, you should always press it home, because it destroys a team for an entire match. You remember we said the first half, it took Leinster an hour in the first half of the 2011 Heineken Cup final to get over the first couple of scrums.
Yeah.
You know, that was 10 minutes that set the tone for an hour of the match.
Well,
so if you have an advantage in scrum, you always have to, because it turns a screw in a referee's head.
But like New
you
Zealand,
could also say the opposite though. I mean, there were other ones that we kicked for the corner and got nowhere with.
yeah, but I'm saying
You could have said if we'd have taken them as penalty kicks, we would have been a lot closer
The
and
thing
might
is,
have had it.
I mean,
But
I was saying earlier about Reid and what's his name, been in the Irish back row, right? How many times would a ref have allowed that to happen? If they were continually been dominating the scrum and their back row was continually breaking off, he can't keep allowing it to happen. So there's an advantage there that could have been pressed home. Instead of just taking the points, it was great having the points and all that, but we should have pressed home an advantage, and that's what you were saying about the All Blacks. You know, looked at the referee, the regulatory environment that surrounded the match, and decided how they were going to play. We should have been looking at the regulatory environment that we were faced with, i.e., they're coming off there's no way the ref is going to repeatedly because
Exactly.
you know, for all the complaints about the referee, I want to make clear, I have no doubt whatsoever that Paper refereed that match to the best of his ability. Right? No, but what I mean is, people will say, "Oh, he's biased, he's bent, he's whatever."
I don't think
Absolutely
that
not.
for a minute.
I wouldn't let even the merest thought of that cross my head. I don't think he's all that good a ref, and I think he made a huge number of mistakes. But even a ref, if he sees 2 guys coming off the back of a scrum, he's eventually gonna do it. Yeah. So you keep turning the screw in his head. Yeah.
But like psychologically, they would have absorbed all the pressure and said, you know what, we kind of got out of here by only just conceding 3. 3's a lot better than 7. 7, we weren't behind the sticks, you know, in a huddle, trying to come back and come on. We have to rally ourselves. They were happy to give away 3, and we played into that and just got those 6 points on the board. When really that could have been 14 if we had confidence in our ability to go for it.
When the All Blacks do work a 3/7 policy in defence. They always have. I mean, Matt Williams talked about it last night, and
you could see how cynical they were in every other aspect of the game. Of course, they're going to be cynical and give away 3 rather than 7.
So somebody said the All Blacks. Matt Williams said about their penalties to yellow card ratio. It's a stat. He said, and I've seen the same stat. It was on one of the Australian papers, funny enough, and they have by far. I don't know which is the best way, the lowest or the highest, whichever way you want to do it. I think they give away 1 yellow card for every 20 or every 43
Don't
penalties.
forget Richie McCaw with hardly ever a yellow card.
But that's, and I don't believe that would require. I mean, for people to say, "Oh, that's because nobody does the All Blacks or whatever," that would require a massive global conspiracy. What it is
it's a subtle conspiracy.
What it is the All Blacks are really, really good at all areas of rugby. No, at all areas of rugby, including the more nefarious acts, which are all a part of the game. I mean, we all know.
Around them.
We all know there's an element of what's legal on a rugby pitch, what you can get away with.
You can get away with less now with cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
However, there were 11 incidents put to the deciding commissioners, which I would absolutely.
Actually, there were 12.
I would absolutely bet my house that one of them was Israel Dag on CJ Stander. And only 2 of them were upheld as being deemed worthy of a red or yellow card, and that was Sam Kane and Fekitoa.
It should be pointed out that the people who raised these incidents weren't either Ireland or New Zealand. It was the match observer raised them to the deciding commissioner, just so in case people get a bit confused saying that Ireland raised in, since they didn't. It was the match observer did.
But all I'm saying is, of those 11, which Izzy Dag's hit on standard was obviously one of, the only two they actually cited were Fekitoa and Sam Cane. And to be honest, I think that's fair enough. Now, Sean O'Brien got lashed by Kieran Reid at the kickoff. Funnily enough, I can remember Sean O'Brien doing that to Owen Farrell in a Six Nations game about 3 years ago. Exactly the same thing from the kickoff. Exactly the same, and he gave him a right dig in the guts. And nobody saw it. It didn't appear on the television footage for some reason. But I was sitting very close to it, and I saw it. He gave him an awful box. And to Owen Farrell's credit, he got up and played on as if nothing. And he was only quite young at that time.
I mean, and I'm not look. We all love Sean O'Brien, but he did it against France in the World Cup,
So,
and he did it.
I
Remember we
wouldn't
played
be
against
condemning
Toulouse
the All Blacks
in
for
the
being
European
thugs.
Cup.
Yeah, I mean, the man was he was freeing
Was,
himself.
but
from
he
it.
well.
We're all thugs when it suits us, and we're all cynical when it suits us. And the very people who
if we are cynical and we are thugs, then we should be punished for it.
If we're caught,
if everyone should be punished for it, and that's the thing.
But
if you're in a situation where there seems to be, for whatever reason, whether it's the skill of the perpetrator or not, where one set of players don't get punished for it, then you have to ask what world rugby think they're at. Or you put a man in position to control the game who's incapable of doing so. You have to ask what world rugby think they're doing. This is the second time we've had Paper. He's just not that good a referee. I mean, we had a France game. Mm-hmm. He's not good at controlling.
Yeah.
He's not good at protecting players.
there
There
were bodies taken out during that.
Yeah.
the one against Sexton, yeah.
Carried off, and that was blatant, and it was right in front of him as well.
Yeah.
Remember that?
I do, yeah.
Literally
Got it right in the back.
right in front of him.
But like there was we can draw a line under the match itself, but there was some very good positives. Like Ringrose came on very early and had a good game. He made some pretty good tackles and carried well. But I thought Josh van der Fleer, and he didn't carry as much as O'Brien, but he just
I thought Van der Fleer was superb. I thought Ringrose was grand, but I thought he was grand within what the All Blacks defensive structure allowed him to be grand within. I mean, he didn't really make too many line breaks or stuff like that. I mean, he carried well and he defended well, but Josh van der Fleer was out of this world. I mean, he was just.
We kind of won the forward battle to a greater degree.
See, our backs, I think, kind of let us down.
10 and 12 were gone for whatever reason. Without them,
there's a couple of things, right? 10 and 12 were gone early, right? That's the big thing. That puts the whole team in the back foot for several reasons. One, obviously, it limits the substitutions you can make later in the game when lads are getting tired. Two, it totally disrupts the flow. Like, for a guy, Ringrose, I saw him kind of swapping a little bit between 12 and 13 himself and Payne. Mm-hmm. But that would have thrown everything, to have him coming on and Paddy Jackson also having to come on at the same. Like, you could have deployed maybe Paddy Jackson at 12 or Sexton or whatever if you hadn't lost both. But that centre combination of Ringrose and Jared Payne, they were, they met in the car park nearly, you know what I mean? They were just thrown into it. And they did bloody well, considering. We had our back row reefed there. Kieran who? Jesus Christ, he was anonymous.
And the other side of it is, so just to, I don't know, maybe, no, you develop your point in that turn.
Well, our back row tore them to shreds, I thought we won all the back row battles. Yeah. I thought they carried, they tackled, they did everything.
They won so much ball. O'Brien won so much ball on the ground.
Yeah, and he took a load on the deck. One just after he was taken out of it by Kieran Reid as well, with credit to him as well. The forwards in general, Tyke Furlong, few amazing. I think they scrummaged well. The line out was pretty good, considering they had Retallick and Whitelock. And there's another thing, right? Retallick and Whitelock, whatever about all their height, their ability in the line out, they're two bruisers. Like, they're two guys that you take into the trenches with you. And we still won in my mind, the battle of the forwards. What we didn't win was the penetration of the defence, which includes their backs and their forwards. But they were on a string. They were being pulled up into a line of 14 players after every breakdown.
But like, we played a quarter of the match with an extra man.
Yeah.
And we just convert any of our possession into points. Really, like
That's because they're so bloody good in defence.
They're really
they're
good.
only
and we were-
15
and we
men,
were-
though,
and we were-
and
and
okay,
we-
they're 15 very good men. But when there's 14 against 15 men, we should be taking advantage of that.
There was an element of scratchiness, you see, about the 9, 10, about the 10, 12, and then the partnership between 12 and 13. The other thing, sorry, just to go back to what I was saying, the other thing about having to bring in Van der Fleer so early is you lose the impact
Yeah,
of him
of course.
coming in. Because we were saying last week, saying, like, what we do is we go with them and stay with them for the hour, and then
we
you
bring
bring on
them
the
on,
likes
yeah.
of Van der Fleer, you bring on the likes of Ringrose to take the game up a notch.
Yeah,
And we were unable to
like
do that
we were
because
forced to bring the scrum half
Marmion
Marmion
on the wing.
wing.
Yeah.
Which
You know, and
they
it's-
had that last time in Chicago. Like they had,
Yeah.
what's his name, Artie Surveyor or somebody on the wing anyway that they shouldn't have had. So, they got all the bad luck with injuries in the last game. We got it this game. I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to that discussion again. That heated discussion.
I'll just leave those quotation marks hanging there.
You leave the quotation marks there.
Funnily enough, actually, just some of the tweets we got kind of address the points we're making, and they tend to agree more with Jason than me. We got a plethora of tweets, amongst them from John Malloy and Peter Turner. And Peter says, "Has the continuous whinging of the Irish media and many on social media in relation to the All Blacks game been excessive? Are we becoming a nation of whingers?" Leaving
Yeah.
aside the All Blacks game.
Yes, we are.
No, I don't think we are. I think we.
We're not as bad as the
I
Welsh,
think
but
one
we're
of the
getting there.
gifts that the British left us, apart from a good infrastructure, a fairly decent civil service, was public embarrassment. We don't complain. We just do not complain. And if we do complain, we're seen as begrudging. Begrudging, it's a terrible word in the Irish language. We're seen as being begrudging, or we're seen as whinging, or that whole maybe because of the effect of the GA and its amateur ethos and the Corinthian spirit that you don't. I mean, fuck it. If somebody does you, do them.
Yeah,
Well-
but there's an attitude now. Like, I mean, this is probably
That's up to the players on the
broadening
pitch.
our remit, really. But because people can just type something on the internet with no real consequences, post something on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, that they can really write whatever they want and have a bitch and a whinge about. So I think we are a little bit becoming a bit more of a whingy than we used to be.
Possibly. There's elements of it that are bad. There's elements of it I think that are actually positive instead of, just sitting back and taking it.
I'll give you another example, right? Take it away from this current heated environment, and go back to Warren Gatland dropping Brian O'Driscoll for the last test, right? When that happened initially, I was going, "Oh, that's terrible. Trico's last game is that's shocking." After about 2 hours of looking at social media and listening to the television, I was going, "Oh, Jesus Christ, please get me away from all this bitching about, okay, the guy was dropped. Big fucking deal, get over
I
it.
know, yeah.
Please,
It's
please."
hilarious, isn't it?
And 2 weeks later, it was still going on. And, I just feel we could be falling into that trap as well, because it's not a good look. whinging.
Well, the other side of that is people say we're a nation of begrudgers. We're not. We're a nation of iconoclasts.
Okay.
We do. I mean, like you were saying, that your initial response was the response that many people were, but then because it became so overwhelmingly,
Yeah.
you decided you kind of changed your view on it, and to a certain
Didn't
extent,
change my view. I changed the fact that I wanted to hear about it any longer.
oh, nobody wanted to hear about it after a while.
But there's
Why
probably
were they
still,
shiting on
but
about
there's
it?
still
There's
people
people-
probably whinging about
but there's
it, and there
people-
will be in another,
How many times this
18 or
weekend-
18 months when the tour's on.
How many times this weekend did you hear somebody refer to Brian O'Driscoll getting taken out 12 years ago in a test match for the Lions? I think I heard it about 4 times at
This is the
least.
first time I've heard.
I heard it was on the TV commentary for a start. It was on.
I
It
watched
was
it
on a
before.
couple of podcasts. It was on. Like, we don't get over it. Like, please get over it. Yeah, it was all dreadful back in 2005, but
Do you know the best way of getting over something like that is revenge.
well,
It is.
we had our revenge in Chicago. So
Well, yeah,
can we
yeah.
be over it, please?
When you get over something, the best way to get over something is revenge. It's like the best way to deal with a breakup is shagging the girl's best mate.
Just going back to the rugby, I suppose, we made just too many fundamental errors within the game. Whatever about the violence on the pitch, we didn't capitalise on all of the
Yeah.
possession.
To beat
and
the All Blacks, you have to
territory we
be
had.
100% right for 100% of the match, and we weren't. I mean, we made you can't if you make you want to keep an error count of maybe 3 against the All Blacks. You know, we had an error count. We made, I could think of 3 errors in the first half alone off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And you just can't. If you do that against the All Blacks, they will murder.
And that's why we won it.
Metaphorically.
That's why we won in Chicago, because we were clinical.
Yeah, we didn't make
and
those
we
mistakes.
took advantage of every mistake that they, and just like they are absolutely, they might be cynical, but they're also clinical.
Well,
and any mistake that we made, they pounced on it.
How heartening is it though, for a team featuring having Sexton, Henshaw, and CJ Stander all go off in the first, I don't know, certainly half an hour. Finished, so with 3 less substitutes than the All Blacks. Put it up to a completely fired up, full strength All Black team, and not be too far away.
With 20 minutes to go,
20 minutes to go, we're 5 points.
14-9 down. Like,
Yeah.
you still kind of thought we had a
That's
chance
impressive.
here.
That's impressive.
But isn't it just goes to show how good Schmidt is, that he can prepare a team to do that? Because, yes, it's been kind of coming over the last number of years, not just even before Smith. We had been getting closer and closer, but we've taken the step, obviously, in Chicago. But the match 3 years ago, this match, the weekend, like, we are there and thereabouts. Now, we only get to play the All Blacks, once every 2 years, once every 3 years, maybe. Whereas the Australia's, South Africa's play them far more regularly in the champion and Argentina, of course.
And look at the improvement in Argentina.
Yeah, there you
alone.
go. But like, we have improved dramatically, and I that is going to stand to us in the Six Nations.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Six Nations.
I don't think there's so much you can say about it. Much more you can add to the glory of Schmidt. Really,
No.
He is unquestioned, in my opinion. Anyone, I'm sure somebody will question it, but I can't see any rational questioning of it. The best coach in the world.
Yeah, he's up there.
He's just, and he's certainly the best coach Ireland has ever had.
How about Conor O'Shea?
Conor O'Shea's not bad. No, he's done a good job.
he's
He's
okay.
a director of rugby, Jason.
Sorry.
Joe's. He's drawn a line under all bets, as it were.
So to sum it up, we could have won the game. It was in our hands. We could have won it, whether or not they threw all the dirt at us. They could have won it by more without the dirt. We did put up an amazing display, considering the players we had on display by the end of the game, or by the middle of the game. I think we did incredibly well, and we made them shit themselves to such a degree that they came out with all kinds of cynical stuff.
Well, I'll tell you one thing is, and it's probably something for part 2, but it sets Leinster up very nicely for the European games.
Well, if we still have any players left.
When you look at it, is anybody going to want to face a back row featuring any 3 of, or indeed the 3 of O'Brien, Heaslip, and Van der Fleer?
I know I wouldn't.
I know I wouldn't. Our second row, our front row. We're going to be in rude health.
Hopefully. Touch wood.
Yeah, well, that's true. We still have a game against Australia to come.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it in part 2. Thanks very much, boys. Thanks a million for watching. Cheers.